Step number 17, we were discussing India and Pakistan towards independence. We have discussed World War II, key moment, resolution day, Quit India campaign, what happened towards partition, a Labour government, commission, cabinet mission, direct action day, and the Calcutta Dots, August 1946, right? We have to start it with that point if I'm not wrong. हमने यहीं से शुरू करना है. Over there, can anybody proceed in the reading? कोई करेगा?
Direct Action Day and the Calcutta Riots, August 1946. Protests and violence spread across India with mutinies in the army and navy. Worried that both the British government and Congress would combine to prevent Pakistan's creation, Jinnah called on all Muslims to take part in a direct action day in August 1946. The Muslims were to have peaceful marches and demonstrations to express their demand for Pakistan. But the day was marred by violence and riots. In Calcutta, over 4,000 lost their lives, thousands more were seriously injured, and a huge number of homes and property were destroyed. Where, where the Hindus were in the majority, Muslims were the victims and vice versa. The Calcutta riots began a civil war which continued on and off for another year.
Okay. So definitely direct action day. What was that day? Like we have already discussed in the previous class, protest and violence had started across for the whole India, especially in the between Muslims and Hindus, right? Muslim to take part in direct actions day in August 1946. एक साल पहले पाकिस्तान बनने से एक साल पहले ये सारी सिचुएशन जो थी बहुत ज्यादा वर्सन हो गई थी. The Muslims were to have peaceful marches. All the Muslims, they were following peaceful marches and demonstrations. They were protesting in a peaceful way. But unfortunately, those who were the anti-Muslim parties, they were, you can say, in teasing them, or they were provoke the whole Muslim people by doing their negative acts. By the day was made by violence, Kolkata, over 4,000 people lost their life. Most of the people were Muslim over there. Thousands more were seriously injured, and some of the people they lost their property as well. Muslims who were the victims and vice versa. दोनों तरफ से situation बहुत ज़्यादा. आप you can say that the critical definitely एक common चीज़ है. अगर कोई आपके ऊपर attack करता है, so you can't sit quiet. The violence. A key moment British decided to withdraw from 1920 February 1947. When Britishers they started, you can say, withdraw from the subcontinent. Yes, Aisha Abid.
Miss Mary,
Sure.
violence between the Muslims and Hindu communities in India became a decisive factor for Britain's Labour government, which already faced enormous problems coping with economic difficulties after World War II. On 20 February 1947, Prime Minister Clement Attlee announced that Britain would leave India by June 1948 and appointed Lord Mountbatten as Viceroy to organize the transfer of power. Mountbatten was a cousin of King George VI. He had a good war record and became commander of the combined British and American forces in Asia. A man of great charm and supreme self-confidence, he got on very well with Nehru. He did not like Jinnah, who did not trust him. Jinnah and most Muslim League leaders believed that once partition became certain, Mountbatten worked behind the scenes to help India rather than Pakistan. Soon after Mountbatten arrived, civil war broke out in the Punjab and many people died in Amritsar and Lahore. Most Sikhs strongly opposed partition, and if it was to happen, they wanted their own independent state in the Punjab. Mountbatten decided that there was no alternative to partition but to divide Bengal and the Punjab. Nehru agreed. Jinnah at first resisted what he called a multi-layered maimed and moth-eaten Pakistan, but reluctantly accepted, knowing that he would not get anything better. Only Gandhi continued to speak out against the division.
Okay. So basically, that is the time on 20th February, they decided, the Prime Minister Clement Attlee, he announced that they would leave India in 1948 by June. And they appointed the Lord Mountbatten. He was a person, he was the representative of that time, or you can say that he was the government official, the general टू ऑर्गेनाइज द ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर। किस चीज की पावर ट्रांसफर करनी थी कि भाई हम छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, हम गवर्नमेंट जो है वो हिंदुओं को या इंडियंस को देकर जा रहे हैं। ठीक है, डेफिनेटली देयर वर इश्यूज, अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज ओवर देयर बिटवीन मुस्लिम्स एंड हिंदूज, हु गोना टेक द अथॉरिटी, हु गोना टेक द पावर। He had a good war record and become commander of the combined British. Definitely Lord Mountbatten, because basically he was supporting the Hindu community. And he was very good friend of Nehru. This is the reason he did not like Jinnah. He did not trust him, and Jinnah and most Muslim League leaders believed that one partition became certain. And the Mr. Jinnah also knew about that Lord Mountbatten, he was supporting the Indian community most of the time. Mountbatten worked behind the scene to help India rather than Pakistan. This is the reason we got the Pakistan, or you can say the partition of some of the parts of Pakistan. They were most of the, आप ये कह सकते हो कि बहुत ज़्यादा डैमेज थे, ठीक है, इकोनॉमिकली और जोग्राफिकली पीपल डिड नॉट गेट द पर्टिकुलर पार्ट्स जो हमें मिलने चाहिए थे या जो डिमांड की गई थी उस टाइम पे। After that, most Sikhs strongly opposed partition. Some of the people जो Sikh community अपनी जो है वो डिमांड करी थी कि they wanted a separate state in India, like the Punjab, the whole Amritsar. They were also doing they were doing protests and violences over there. They wanted their own independent state in the Punjab. उनकी एक अलग अपनी कहानी थी। Mountbatten decided that there was no alternative to partition, to divide Bengal and the Punjab, because already they divided the whole Bengal, especially the East and West Bengal. Divide कर चुके थे West Bengal. Definitely, Qaeda-Azam basically he was expecting, or you can say he was just appraising this thing कि जो भी उनको मिल रहा है, we should thankful for that. कि हमें at least वो मुल्क मिल रहा है, या हमें वो चीज़ मुसलमानों के लिए मिल रही है, although that was most of the parts कोई और ऑप्शन था नहीं हमारे पास। Knowing that he would not get anything better, only Gandhi continued to speak out against the division. Till then, Gandhi he was asking to not he was asking, he was against the division of the subcontinent. Yes, Fatma, what is your question? Okay, let's continue. Redcliffe Commission. Who? What was the Redcliffe Commission and who was that person? Yes, Fatma, continue.
The Redcliffe Commission, 1947. As the violence continued, Mountbatten, with the agreement of both Jinnah and Nehru, brought forward the date of the transfer of power to August 1947. He had a British judge, Sir Cyril Redcliffe, flown in to decide the boundaries dividing both Bengal and the Punjab. Redcliffe was given 6 weeks to complete his task, as all the British Muslim and Hindu leaders wanted a speedy solution. Bengal, already divided by Khorasan, was not much of a problem as the boundaries followed a well-known line. The Punjab was different. The Redcliffe line cut across rivers and canals with the main aim of dividing Muslims from Hindus and Sikhs who had been living together for centuries across the region. Redcliffe finished work on 12 August. The final details of the Redcliffe Award were made known by Mountbatten on 16 August 1947, with changes in the Punjab and Bengal boundaries, which resulted in chaos and killings on both sides. Jinnah was bitterly disappointed with the Redcliffe decisions. Wrong and unjust was how he described them, though he had no choice but to accept them. Mountbatten hoped to be Governor General of both new states. Nehru agreed, but not Jinnah. He was determined that Pakistan would be a new independent state in every way and was himself chosen to be Governor General. On 14 August 1947, Pakistan became a nation, India the day after.
Okay, now. So definitely now you can see what is the Redcliffe Commission. That was the actual geographical division was being done by the people, by some of the officials, like the Cyril Redcliffe. He flown to decide the boundaries, dividing both Bengal and the Punjab. He got the 6 weeks to complete his task. उससे पहले जो है वो everybody had to leave their places and they had to go into the new separate independent country. Definitely already divided by Bengal, already divided by Khorasan. पहले ही इसका जो division हो चुका था, especially West Bengal का was not much of a problem. The Punjab was different. The Redcliffe lines cut across rivers. आप सबको पता होगी ये बात कि from Hindus and Sikhs who had been living together for centuries across the region. Definitely, एक main aim आपको यही था कि you need to divide those people, those who were living, those who had been living for centuries together across the region, but finally they had to leave their states, their country. Radcliffe finished this work on August 12th, and Radcliffe award were made known by Mountbatten on 16th August 1947 with changes in the Punjab and Bengal boundaries which resulted in chaos and killing. ये कोई एक दिन की जो थी वो सिचुएशन नहीं थी. Definitely they were facing the whole situation for so many days. इस तरीके से after that what happened, Jinnah was bitterly disappointed. Definitely some of the geographical locations that was defined by Jinnah वो उनको नहीं मिल पाए. This is the reason he said the wrong and unjustice division then by the Radcliffe, but definitely they had no choice rather than accept it. Mountbatten hoped to be a governor general, which time reasonably officials they, especially Britain officials, they considered themselves a superior one. So after what happened, he was also hoping that he would be the governor general of the new separate state with the name of Pakistan. But unfortunately, being a you can say the president of Muslim League, being a president or being a authority person of Pakistan, Qaid-e-Azam, he officially announced that the person who will be leading the whole Pakistan, that should be the Muslim person. This is the reason he had chosen himself to be a governor general of Pakistan when Pakistan came into being on 14th August 1947. Partition and its consequences. Definitely आप सब देख सकते हैं क्या हालात थे. You can search on Google, आपको पता चल जाएगा. Arisha, please continue.
Partition and its consequences. The partition of the subcontinent resulted in one of the largest migrations in history as hundreds of thousands crossed the borders from one country to another. British officials described families who had walked to the borders dying of hunger and exhaustion as they reached it. There were at least 10 million refugees. The army and police could not control such numbers. Tragedy also followed as Muslims and Sikhs in the Punjab and Muslims and Hindus in Bengal fought each other. The scale of violence was appalling. The estimated number of deaths at partition varies. Some say 200,000, some double that number.
Continue, Arisha.
The princely states. These had the choice of joining India or Pakistan. Most joined the one which made the most geographical sense. Two states, Janugarh and Hyderabad, despite being entirely surrounded by the new India, chose Pakistan, mainly because their rulers were Muslims. Though most of the population was Hindu, Janugarh was quickly occupied by the Indian army, while the much larger and the richer Hyderabad was taken over a year later, after Qaid-e-Azam's death in September 1948.
Okay, now you people have already discussed about the consequences, what happened over there. So many people died. एक estimation आपको दी गई, estimated आपको जो है वो casualties दिए हैं around 200,000. इससे ज़्यादा के लोग जो थे they people died over there. Flag of new nation Pakistan and India. People can see the flag and how they people were living over there. They were coming in such a way that the trains or each and every train was overloaded. They are talking about the princely state. ठीक है, ये वो states थे जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा strong थे in the community और काफी वहाँ पे well of families they were living over there. Definitely some of the people, especially in the Junagadh and Hyderabad, the people, those who were leading, they all were Muslim, but majority जो थी वो हिंदुओं की थी. And those princely states, they were taken by the Indian army because they were very strong at that time. Definitely some of the people they are working over there, उनकी army majority में भी ज़्यादा थी. They were very strong in the weapons. Pakistan एक नया separate state, एक separate country बना था, तो definitely we needed more time to take all of these actions. If we talk about the key moment Kashmir, 1947 till 1949, ठीक है. So who wanna continue with this point? कौन इसको कंटिन्यू करेगा? Anybody? Everybody, first of all, please keep your cameras on. When you know the instructions, please follow the instructions. Unmute yourself, Arisha.
A key moment, Kashmir, 1947 till 1949. The only state left in dispute was Kashmir, a dispute that has lasted to this day. The population of Kashmir was mainly Muslim, so Pakistan expected that it would become part of Pakistan. India thought differently. The ruling family was Hindu and bordered by Afghanistan and China. With the USSR close by Kashmir was a vital region for India's defense. Moreover, control of Kashmir meant control of Pakistan's water sources. In September 1947, fearing that the ruling family would OPT for India, Muslim fighters from the mountain regions of northern Pakistan poured into Kashmir. The Hindu rulers summoned help from the Indian government, which sent the Indian army to occupy the region. The Pakistan army then invaded to support the Muslims and a full-scale war took place. In 1948, the United Nations got both sides to agree a ceasefire, which left Pakistan forces holding the mainly mountainous west and India the east. The United Nations expected that India's would allow plebiscite, a simple vote giving the Kashmiris the chance to decide their fate. However, for the rest of the 20th century, that plebiscite never took place, and the Indian and Pakistani armies have glared at each other across the landscape of one of the most beautiful regions of the world. The Kashmir dispute following the tragedy of partition has poisoned the relations between Pakistan and India for generations.
So, like as you all know, what is going on in the discuss karna ya karwana, because nobody can speak about that particular issue. If we talk about that, तो हम इसको disputed Kashmir बोलते हैं, जहाँ पे आप लोग को पता होगा कि that being, you can say, occupied by the Indian army that has lasted to the day. The population of Kashmir was mainly Muslim. Definitely, we all know that. So Pakistan expected to be would become the part of Pakistan in the initiative. हम सबको नॉर्मली जितने भी ऑफिसर्स थे सबको पता था कि ये कश्मीर का ये वाला हिस्सा है पाकिस्तान के पास होगा बिकॉज कम्युनिटी और पॉपुलेशन वहाँ पर मुसलमानों की ज्यादा है. The ruling family was Hindu and bordered by Afghanistan and China, with the USSR close by Kashmir. Union Soviet Socialist Republic was a vital region for India's defense. Control of Kashmir meant control of Pakistan water resources. This is the reason जो मसले चल रहे हैं to control the whole Kashmir. अगर कश्मीर को control करना है तो we need to control the Pakistan water resources as well. September 14, 1947, fearing that the ruling family would opt for India, Muslim fighters from the mountain region of northern Pakistan poured into Kashmir. Hindu rulers summoned help from the Indian government, which sent the Indian army to occupy the region. The particular region था, definitely that was, you can say, occupied by the Indian army because जो वहाँ पे ruler थे, वो सारे हिंदू थे. Population या majority जो थी वहाँ पे रहने वाली, they all were Muslims. What happened later? Definitely, the Pakistan army then invaded to support the Muslims and full-scale war took place. The reason is because people were Muslims, so they wanted a separate, you can say, state for the Muslim community. In 1948, United Nations got both sides to agree a ceasefire, which left Pakistan forces holding the mainly mountainous west. Unfortunately, we had to leave the some of the region, some of the part of the Kashmir because of the United Nations decision. अभी क्या होता है ये भी मैं आपको. If you talk about the next thing, definitely Kashmir is the chance to decide their fate. एक टाइम ऐसा भी आया था जहाँ पर उनको ऑफर किया गया था कि they have to decide their own fate. ठीक है, वो खुद सिंपल वोटिंग कर सकते हैं, लेकिन उस वोटिंग में भी जो था वो बेसिकली अनजस्टिस उनके साथ हुआ था. For the rest of the 20th century, that plebiscites never took place at the Indian and the Indian and Pakistani armies have glared at each other across the landscape of the most beautiful region of the world. अभी तक जो है वो हमारे साथ issues हैं. Definitely जब इस बात पर इस point पर discussion किया जाता है for the Kashmir, so both countries are very short. The Kashmir dispute following the tragedy of partition had poisoned the relation between the Pakistan and the India for generations. ठीक है, हम सबको खत्म करना है आज.
Yes, Mary.
For sure. Zavia.
Yes. The death of Quaid-e-Azam 1948 had one more deadly blow to the new nation of Pakistan. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah died in September. He had been seriously ill for years, yet by the strength of his personality, had made sure that the new nation was created. His was a remarkable achievement. In the last 200 years, many nations have won their independence, but few, if any, have owed so much to one man as Pakistan or to Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He had perhaps one match, and that was Kemal Atatürk, the man who made modern Turkey out of the ruins of the Ottoman Empire. Atatürk had written about his life in an autobiography called Grey Wolf. In the 1930s, when Jinnah was living in London in despair over the arguments weakening the Muslim League, he had read Grey Wolf. It renewed his confidence that he could unite the Muslims of the subcontinent and lead them to a better future. And that is what he did.
Okay, so it's all about the praising Qadir Muhammad Jinnah. That definitely it was a totally one-man show. He had the abilities, you can say, to take out the new separate country from the subcontinent with the name of Pakistan. Although he was very ill, Muslim country, but just because of that, they some of the part of the Turkey is connected with the West Eastern Europe, so they have adopted some of the culture over there of Western culture, although that is a Muslim country. So they dissolved the Ottoman Empire, or you can say the Caliphate system, by the decision of the Kemal Atatürk. But definitely he praised Pakistan Jinnah when Pakistan came into being in 1947, and definitely we will needed a lot of time to